Number one thing for me is being real. The number two thing is being kind. And the number three is being helpful. So I'm passionate about kindness and service in all things I do, but that really helped ground me. If my content doesn't reflect one of those three things, then I'm not posting it.
Grab some coffee, a Mountain Dew, maybe both. A storm is brewing. The Brainstorm. Welcome to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Hey, welcome to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Mike, we've done a ton of shows now, and over the past year and a half or so with our podcast and our YouTube channel and our live radio show that we do, it's always just a ton of fun that we have.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we get to use a decade's worth of experience to kind of help business owners and business executives and just people wanting them set themselves apart, maybe avoid some roadblocks or some hurdles that they have to overcome in the business world.
Yep.
And so I love that. I know you love that as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, we make a lot of the mistakes, and then we get to go tell other people how to avoid them.
You know, it's like
it's like we're the guinea pig.
The proverbial child on the eye scenario, right? Don't touch that eye. Don't touch that eye. Oh,
yeah. We seem to touch it a lot.
Yeah. Exactly.
But hopefully we learn from it.
Well, that's who you want to learn from, right? Yeah. And so if that is indeed who you want to learn from, then I guess you and I are probably the perfect picture of education, because we do touch the eye quite a bit. Man, today we're going to really hyper focus on some topics that's going to resonate with a very specific target market, right? It's going to be people that want to self-brand, if you will. And not only are we going to talk about self-branding, we're also going to talk specifically about a platform in which you use self-branding on. Mike, so talk to us a little bit about our show today.
Yeah, you know, Matt, people do business with those they know, like, and trust.
No doubt.
And if you want people to know you, you've got to actually show up. You've got to be where they are. So you got to know where they're at, and then you've got to be there consistently. And then beyond that, after they know you, you want them to hopefully like you.
Right.
If they don't like you, the chances of you ever doing any business with them is probably zero.
Yeah, you have to be very engaging.
Yeah, so for people to like you, you got to add value to them. You've got to be likable, entertaining, engaging. You've got to pique their interest in some way. And then ultimately, they're going to need to trust you. They could like you at some level, but go, yeah, I like that guy. I like to watch what he has to say, but I don't necessarily trust what he has to say. And so you've got to add real value to them, and you've got to be authentic. And that authenticity is so important, especially in our digital world today, because transparency is key. I mean, you can't pretend you're one thing on one platform and go to another one and operate a different way and think that people aren't going to take notice, because people do visit and hang out in more than one place, just like they do in our real world, right? People go to more than one place. Yep. And so really know, like, and trust. And if you want to do that, you've got to be consistent. And really, it's all about building a great reputation. This isn't anything new.
Yep.
I mean, really having a solid reputation has always been kind of foundational to building long-term success. It does take time.
Right.
And so another term for building a reputation would be like a personal brand. And so people talk a lot in business about building their brand, but you also have a personal brand, a personal reputation that you need to build and establish. And so, you know, with the platforms like TikTok and Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, there's a huge opportunity online to really engage an audience and really get more frequency in front of them than ever before in history, and really build that personal brand. So, you know, today we're discussing building a personal brand specifically on LinkedIn. And Matt, why is building a personal brand on LinkedIn so important?
Well, you know, LinkedIn is probably the premier social media platform for a B2B world. And so that's not to say that other social media platforms don't have business executives or business decision makers on them. Of course they do, right? And most of the time, social media users are social media users. They'll use more than one platform, you know, the majority of the time, if not almost all of the time.
Right.
But LinkedIn is one that a lot of people really miss the boat, I believe. And even going deeper into what you were saying, Mike, I mean, personal influencers that come out of that, and that's really made a difference. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is just position you as the expert, right? Businesses do it. They position their business as the expert. And from a personal brand, you want to position you as the expert. In a B2B world, LinkedIn is by far the best way to do it. Just statistically, LinkedIn has more than, almost 600 million users across 200 plus countries.
Can you speak in all those languages, Matt?
I can do it confidently, to where most people would think that I'm doing it correctly, right? And so, but I wouldn't be speaking, but just English correctly,
Right.
So, I could probably speak all kinds of different things, but English is the only one that is understandable. The LinkedIn area for B2B marketers, if you look across the spectrum, they would say that is the top social media platform for delivering B2B content, and most effective for generating leads. And really, because it's 40% of LinkedIn members actually check in on a daily basis. They go there on a consistent basis. But now what I'm personally finding is there's a lot of people that use LinkedIn that may or may not be posting on a daily basis, but they're still checking in and they're still checking it out, if you will. And so I'm really super excited about the guests we have on our show today, because our guest today is really using LinkedIn and maximizing its potential. I say that loosely because LinkedIn, it's hard to maximize LinkedIn's potential. And Mike, we've actually had other guests on our show that's talked specifically about LinkedIn as well, which was interesting. We had the ESPN talent agent,
that's right,
on our show a while back, which is almost primarily just uses LinkedIn as his social media platform of choice. But today's guest, we have Sims Tillerson. Sims, thank you very much. We really appreciate you joining us today. And over the next little bit, we're going to have an opportunity to really talk to you about what personal branding and LinkedIn is. But we appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Hey, Sims, tell us a little bit about your background. Like, who is your audience? Tell us,
sure,
who you're trying to reach. And
absolutely. So I'm in the employee benefits space, which has traditionally been a very, very boring industry, for lack of a better term. So I'm trying to reach benefits brokers and HR professionals. And most of those folks are using LinkedIn today.
Yeah.
And what about other social media platforms, Sims? Are you also leveraging those, or is it primarily LinkedIn is what you're in the B2B space? So that's obviously the best, but are you primarily using that, or are you going back and forth to other platforms?
Yeah, so primarily using LinkedIn today. I've been dabbling in TikTok a little bit, but hadn't figured that one out yet.
Yeah. Well, those are fun. That's fun videos.
Absolutely.
And two very different platforms.
Yeah. With very different audiences.
Right.
Well, man, I look forward to really diving deep into self-branding with you and hearing all about that. I know, Mike, you've spent a lot of time just trying to help like our sales folks, our business development folks, and other folks like that here also help position them as the expert in our industry. And so we definitely believe in that.
That's right.
And I can sit here and think of a number of types of industries that have to really focus on self-branding, like real estate agents within an agency. I can think of like business bankers. I can think of insurance brokers. I could think of a ton of people. And what's happening is I'm automatically excluding some other people, but that's not necessarily the correct way to go.
I mean, I remember when LinkedIn first came out, it was really, most people used it if they were looking for a job.
Right.
In fact, a lot of employers would say, "Oh my gosh, what is Sims doing on LinkedIn? He must be looking to make a job change."
In colleges,
we got to rein him in.
Colleges, the first thing they do when you become a senior is they require you to build a LinkedIn profile and start connecting with everybody that you know.
That's right.
The problem is most of them drop it at that point.
Yeah,
they just don't ever come back.
So Sims, talk to us about your role as a business development director and kind of how you got started using LinkedIn. Why?
Absolutely.
What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so I left a Fortune 250 company in the middle of the pandemic to join a startup called PES Enrollments.
Okay.
which some may think was a stupid decision. And I did too for the first couple of months. But I've always been a guy that's traveled pretty extensively for my work.
Okay.
And most of my relationships are out in the central U.S. So as you guys know, I wasn't able to get on a plane and go knock on doors and go talk to people. So I had to be where my prospects were. And digitally, the only place to do that was on LinkedIn. So I've had a LinkedIn profile for, 10 years and never really used it. And so in August, I decided that I was going to go all in and try it out for the rest of the year. And if it worked, it worked. And if it didn't, I'd try something else.
Awesome. So like, what did you do? How did you kind of figure out how you were going to use it?
So a lot of trial and error for me. The first decision I made is I'm going to post every single day.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to make 10 quality connections a day with prospects. So that content creation was really hit or miss for me. A lot of it started as thought leadership in the insurance space, which again is super boring, really dry. No one liked it. So I really had to go back to the drawing board. And I decided that, hey, I want people to know who Sims is, why I'm a cool guy you want to do business with, right? So I wanted to tackle the know me, like me piece first, and then follow up with the trust me piece.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That authenticity is so important. And if you're not naturally Mr. Boring, content producer that's going out and just talking, whether it's insurance or whatever the industry is, then you've got to be who you are, and people will connect with you. That's incredible. So talk about it a little bit. Like, what barriers did you find? I mean, what positive things happened? What negative things happened in those early days of using LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in August.
So I had to really learn how to sell on LinkedIn first and foremost. So when I started, I was connecting with all these prospects and then jumping into their DMs and hitting them with the pitch, trying to sell them. And that was met with either no thanks,
right?
Something a little less kind than that, or disconnecting from me altogether. So that was the first thing I had to tackle, which I have, thankfully. Again, you got to get people to know you and like you, right?
That's right.
And then the other thing I faced is after I stopped posting just dry industry-related content and started posting some of the stupid videos I post and posting about my family and my life and my music, I got a lot of hate from people like, "Hey man, this isn't Facebook. We don't do that here. Put on a shirt and tie, and if you're trying to find a job, that's fine. Otherwise, go get on TikTok or whatever."
Yeah,
right.
Just sit here and be quiet.
That's right.
That's what LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that's what some users actually think that it is. It's just sit here and be quiet. But if you look at the ones who actually have the most engagement, you'll see that those are the people who's being some transparent and having some vulnerability really about themselves and their family. So I like where you're going with that.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that last piece I mentioned, while a lot of people hated what I was doing, it was also so polarizing that I really found my niche. I found where the people that I wanted to do business really liked me. And I like to think that those folks that told me to shut up and this isn't Facebook, they were never going to do business with me anyway. Right. So who cares? So
that's a great point.
I really doubled down on the authenticity and really, narrowed my focus onto three things I wanted all my content to show. And so the number one thing for me is being real. The number two thing is being kind. And the number three is being helpful. So I'm passionate about kindness and service in all things I do, but that really helped ground me. If my content doesn't reflect one of those three things, then I'm not posting it.
Yes, that's really interesting, Sims. Before we started recording, someone asked you what your favorite book was, and the first book that you shared was The Go Giver, and that's one of my favorite books as well. So it was interesting that you shared that. But if you're a go-getter, and lots of people talk about being a go-getter, you're going to try and see what you can get from someone, right? You're looking to extract value from them. And as a go-giver, you're doing the opposite. And so, like you said, when you first started trying to slide people DMs and really you were trying to push your sales pitch, it just fell on deaf ears. And now that you've kind of reframed that and you're adding value, sometimes you're adding value in ways where you're not even talking about what it is that you actually do. And so we want to talk about that a little bit. But it really is, people people value people who add value to them.
Absolutely. And I'd say that more often than not, I engage with people, and some of them are prospects and some of them aren't, but it's rarely, at least initially, about what I do for a living. So one of the things I do now when I connect with somebody is I send them a video message, just an introduction of me that I record off my iPhone. Doesn't have to look professional. I say, hey, I'm Sims. I'm an employee benefits education enrollment guy, but I'm also a musician, and I love doing community service, and I love making connections for people. Mm-hmm. And if I can help you with any of those things, you reach out to me and let me know. And a lot of people reach out to me for help meeting someone that I'm connected with, or getting tips on how to make content on LinkedIn or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, I'm happy to help those people. And sometimes it leads to business and sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't cost me anything to be good to people like that.
You know, Sims, leading with kind of the who you are and getting people to know you and like you before you try to sell them. Our viewers and our listeners listen to our show primarily to get tips on how to grow their business.
Sure.
And I think that that's a good lesson right there. And I just want to make sure we don't just gloss over it. And so if you are a business owner or a business executive, or if you're business development for an organization, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit or what have you, it's important to understand those two key points, right? Know you and like you. And so while a business owner might sit here and say, well, you're not selling anything, like I'm not seeing any immediate return on a sales. Why are you spending so much time, right? But then they themselves, if they're ever done any face-to-face sales, they themselves will do exactly what you're doing. They'll just do it in person. Right. Whereas we literally are in the middle of a pandemic, and people have learned, and we could fast forward this 2 or 3 years, and people will have learned that you can actually do in person what people used to do in person via social media, which get people to know you and like you. And then they will buy whatever it is you're selling, if they're going to buy from you at all, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a Cutco rep, right, where you're selling knives, or if you're selling employer benefits or whatever have you. If they know you and like you, you will at least have a microphone in which to speak to, no pun intended on our show with a microphone.
Right.
But you will at least have their ear. And so I think that's a good point for our listeners and viewers to understand, to make sure that you allow and encourage their salespeople and their business development folks and you yourselves to jump online and start building people who know you and like you. And then that will open up some conversations for you.
Yeah, what we're really talking about is relationship development.
Certainly.
And all relationships take time. And so, one of the advantages that I find in the digital space is that there's only so many opportunities to get face-to-face with someone. And so that relationship could take significant time, especially if they're not in your backyard. And so if you're not camping out physically in the same space, day in and day out, it's going to take a long time to really establish strong rapport with someone, really build a relationship where they truly do not know you, like you, and have the opportunity to build trust with you. And so I think that you have a great opportunity. You're obviously taking advantage of it. Our audience has a tremendous opportunity. The majority of our audience is probably not tapping into this opportunity, and we're hoping that you're going to be able to help encourage them to do so. So, how often are you posting today? What does that look like?
So I post during the week. So during the business week, I post at least once a day, and it's usually 2 or 3 times a day. When I first started doing this, I posted 7 days a week, at least once every day, because that was the commitment I made to myself. And you'll see that, every day is different in terms of the engagement you'll get and in terms of the kind of content that hits. But the point you made about relationship development and being in front of somebody is a good one. And I don't think most people think about LinkedIn this way, but it's a constant drip campaign for salespeople.
Yep.
So if I make a post, even in the early days, 500 or 1,000 people would see it. So you think about how much time it would take me to cold call 1,000 people, and then just use this LinkedIn post as as an additive to that rather than a replacement. And then you add in that I'm posting every day, and people are every day seeing my content, because it's like less than 5% of people post consistently. And so my name is always in front of people. And anytime that benefits enrollment conversation comes up, I'm the first name that pops in their head.
I believe in that. I believe in that. We had a business equipment salesperson that called on us like once every other week. You know, and you're in contracts in that type of scenario. Like you're in a 3, 4, 5 year contract, right? And so their name's the first one that I remembered when that happened. Mike and I was like, well, we need to talk to these guys because they were diligent for 3 years that they would pop in and just say, hey, how are you? And that matters because what happened is we didn't remember the name of the organization, but remembered the guy that kept calling on us. Now it's what you're doing. You're just using LinkedIn, you're using a social media platform to do it. These are the type of lessons that we absolutely love to facilitate for our viewers and our listeners, Mike, here on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. I have a question for you, Sims. How do you come up with all of your content ideas? Like, you know, when you post a lot for our clients here from a marketing perspective, we have hundreds of clients that we manage their organic social media. And the organic social media might be across all types of platforms. And it takes a lot of planning, a significant amount of planning. We use a social media content calendar in which we use from seasonality to specials to just all types of things, educational, relational, but it takes a lot of planning, right? Well, we have a big team to do that.
Right.
You. Tell me about how you're coming up with and planning and mapping out all this content.
Absolutely. So I think in the beginning, I was a lot more calculated with the kind of content I posted because I was scared. Oh man, if I post this, it's going to flop. What happens if it flops? And I've had posts get 1 like and no one cares about it, but it's fine. It'll just sit out there. So today I focus on posting about things that I like, things that I would want to engage with if someone else posted them. So for me, I'm a musician, so I do a lot of like parody songs and stuff about my music, because even if you don't play, everybody likes some kind of music, right? I do a lot of videos poking fun at corporate culture because it's really stupid, and I like to make people laugh. And then, you know, I post some thoughts every once in a while that people would probably say that should be on Twitter, like about how I wear jogger sweatpants in my office so I can stuff peanut M&Ms in the pocket, so I'll always have a snack during the day. And then the last piece is that I post, you know, thought leadership content about insurance or about selling in general so that I can add value to my connections even if they're not doing business with me. But I'd say it's whatever pops into my silly little head every day. I just post it.
One thing that's really interesting about that, Sims, and I've engaged with quite a bit of your content, and I find it enjoyable. And you're in a platform where so many people have been stuffy and a little over buttoned up.
Yep.
And in fact, you mentioned earlier that you even got a little pushback from folks because you stepped outside of the normal person's thinking process, that stepping away from the grain, going against the grain on what great content on a platform like LinkedIn could look like. But really, it's always people who step out of the line and do something different, dress differently, whatever it is that stand out, above the crowd. And it's clearly working for you. Talk about some of the engagement that you're getting now.
Yeah. So, you know, on average for a post of mine, whether it's something silly like the M&Ms in my pocket, I get on average about 3,000 views per post and, you know, 30 to 50 comments per post. And then the upside of that, and the thing that most people don't know about LinkedIn, is that there's still enough wiggle room within the LinkedIn algorithm that you can go viral, even if you only have 1,000 followers. So I did a post last year about my recovery from drug addiction and a post about my struggle and treatment with mental health. And both of those posts got over 50,000 views, you know, over 1,000 likes. And that reach is just tremendous. And all it was is me putting myself out there and just being real, not trying to sell anybody anything, but just making content that resonates with me that I would like to read.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it clearly shows that when others see that someone's willing to step out and just be completely transparent and share some of their mess, oftentimes our mess becomes our message, right? And it empowers them, encourages them, so maybe they can speak up too. Maybe they could share a little bit of their mess with their audience and release some of that but also add value to others by saying, hey, you're not the only one.
Absolutely.
Everybody's messed up in some way. So that's interesting.
Sims, we talk a lot about here internally at Splash Omnimedia, and we talk a lot about building your CRM and building your database, data mining, basically. Okay. And so what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to data mine as an organization and put as many people in your CRM as possible and segment them so you're communicating with them correctly. You don't want to just drown people with information they're not interested in, right? But the more people, in the most simplistic form possible, the more people you're communicating with on a regular basis, the more opportunity you have, right?
It's more at bats.
And more at bats.
More at bats, the more likely you are to get a hit.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so, you can almost look at your followers and your the people that you're engaged with or connected to on LinkedIn, to be more formal, as your CRM. From that perspective, from a personal perspective on a social media platform. So, the more people that you have connected with, the more you're speaking to, because a lot of people ask me, hey, what's the difference between organic social media posts and paid social media posts? And that's pretty easy. Organic, you're talking to the people that already know you and are connected to you, whereas paid, you're trying to attract more people to know you and connect with you, right? So this is new people, and this is people you already have. And communicating with both people is just as important. We want to add more people, but you have to always engage the current people. And the reason why I go into all of that is to simply say you're building your CRM, right, as in your connections. And so my question is since you have putting out so much content, and since you're doing it in such an engaging way, what does your new connections look like, let's say on a monthly basis today, versus just say 6 months ago or 12 months ago?
So I add well over 100 new connections a month. When I started doing all this posting, I had 1,000 connections, followers, and I have, I think 4,500 today.
Yeah.
So you can see that's, call it 6 months of work. That's quite a bit of growth.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And not only do I have that followership, the addition to the CRM that we've talked about, I have those people that have seen that consistent content started to generate inbound leads for me.
Right.
And then on top of that, as you grow your following, the people that follow you, if they find your content engaging, they share it.
That's right.
That's right.
And so you get it's an exponential effect to the amount of views that you're getting to your content.
Yeah, it's a compounding effect. There's no doubt about it. And that's the reason why I wanted to, I know my question was a long way of explanation of setting up the answer. But man, 4.5 times over 6 months. I mean, if I would say somebody, hey, listen, we have a really simple way to take a little bit of effort on a daily basis to get you 4.5 times the number of people to communicate with on a daily basis, would you be satisfied? And every single one of them would say absolutely, right? And so that just proved it, what you're doing right there, using one social media platform, taking a little bit of effort, planning it out, mapping it out, and making a post every single day like that has got you 4.5 times the opportunities to communicate in a little over 6 months' time. That's a significant increase, and I definitely would applaud you for that, and applaud any business. So you definitely should listen to this advice for sure.
You know what? Another thing I'll say about that, it clearly proves that it's the daily habit of incremental, sharing, incremental engagement. Most people are looking for that silver bullet. They want that one thing that they can do that's going to help their business, whether they're a sales professional, whether they're a business owner, whether they're a dentist, a CPA, engineer, it doesn't matter. They're looking for that silver bullet that's going to help them, go to a completely different level. And because they spend so much time searching for that silver bullet, instead of investing some daily time, putting a little effort in every single day to incrementally build that audience, your audience has probably grown way more than most companies' audience has grown in that same period of time.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you. And I know for people that don't post every day, it can sound daunting to do that. But I spend like 30 minutes on LinkedIn a day. So what I do every day is try to make 10 meaningful connections with people that are in my target market. I try to leave at least 3 very thoughtful comments on other people's content so that I can give and engage. And then I post at least 1 piece of content myself. There. That's all
in
you
30
have to
minutes.
do.
All in 30 minutes.
If you do it the right way, you can do it in 30 minutes. When you get started, it'll take a little longer.
Yeah. Well, anything you have to get used to, right?
So what do you do and what's your process to decide what you're going to share tomorrow? When does that start?
Sometimes it starts the day of. Like, I know what post I'm going to share tomorrow now because I thought of it today after I had just made a post. So tomorrow I'm going to share a parody of John Mayer's Gravity about cold calling and selling. So I'm going to make a video about that tomorrow.
That's good. And that probably just takes time to get used to, right? And but I want to focus just on the sell itself, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to get paid, right?
Absolutely.
And so everybody does like that paycheck. And so you're getting people to, I mean, you got 4.5 times more followers and connections than you did just 6 months ago by getting people to know you and like you. So now how do you go about generating an actual sell or a client on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. So I mentioned that I get inbound leads now.
Right.
And this is from people, the 40% of people you talk about that just lurk on LinkedIn. They don't never interact with anything, but they're there. I get calls every once in a while from people that are like, Sims, I feel like I can trust you. You're an open book on LinkedIn. You obviously know what you're talking about. Give me the pitch. Let's do business together. So that's one way. And then the other way where I generate most of my sales and most of my income is that I don't really have cold calls anymore because I have 4,500 people that know my name and know what I'm about. And I call on those people, even if we've never spoken before. It's a much warmer interaction, much less awkward than a real cold call.
Oh, yeah.
And typically they understand what it is I'm selling. They know that they're in my target market and we can work through it from there. So,
and they already know you're going to be honest.
Right. Why wouldn't I be?
Why wouldn't you be? Right? Because you're already honest about your personal life and what's going on in your head. And, you know, I mean, absolutely. So you're definitely going to be honest from a professional perspective.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And you're going to be fun to work with too.
That's super fun to work with. Yeah. Funnest guy in the insurance business. Write it down right now. Take it to the bank.
So there's one thing that, just you coming on our show, you're helping our listeners and our viewers, and Mike and I leverage you and your efforts. So at the same time, we also want to make sure that people know how to engage you and what it is, because what we hadn't done is given you opportunity to say, what is that you actually sell? So talk to us about PES enrollment, and so give us the pitch.
Certainly. So at PES enrollments, we take on soup to nuts the employee benefits, education, and enrollment process, and all the ongoing service that goes along with it. So that comes with people that we deploy, technology we deploy, marketing plans we deploy, and then ongoing employee advocacy services as well. So my ideal client is any employer group with 100 or more eligible employees who's passionate about educating their employees on their benefits and who wants to retain their employees.
Mm-hmm. And benefits range from what to what?
So we educate and enroll major medical benefits, dental, vision, disability, life, and then all your Aflac and Colonial type products, accident, critical illness,
cancer policies,
all of that. All the things that, really had a light shown on them through the COVID pandemic. All the things we all really need to protect our income.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I know that, to be honest with you, that's probably, I don't know how Mike, but I think I can actually speak for Mike in this case too, because he and I have to sit down once a year and review our group package, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's probably the thing that I dislike the most.
Yeah, it's terrible,
right? I mean, it's like the thing that just, I will find anything to do other than have to talk about or review those spreadsheets. And it's just tough. So having somebody who can summarize it, decipher it, do it with transparency, so I don't feel like I'm being sold what they want to sell me, but facilitating what they know that I need and educating us on why. I mean, Mike, I hate it.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's confusing. It changes all the time, and of course, as you grow, the things that you need to do change too. And so, we're not quite to that 100 employee mark, but I know that once you hit that mark and beyond, there's rules that change. There's laws that you have to follow that are different than when you're not at 100 employees.
They are, and they're changing more and more all the time. And frankly, even people like me who do it every day, we don't find it that fun either. So we're happy to take it off your plate, though.
Yeah. Well, I know the group changes at 50, I believe. That goes from a small group to a large group.
Yes.
Right. And so what your ideal client is the large group form, right? The 100 client. Do you work with small groups as well?
I do.
It's not your ideal client, right? But I would assume you work with some small groups too.
I do. So my client portfolio today, average client size is 1,000 lives, but my smallest client has 60 eligible employees.
Okay.
So for the right client, we can certainly put something
them,
together.
Right.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
How do people get in touch with you? How do they go and find you on LinkedIn and connect with you on LinkedIn, because that's your primary connection?
It is. So on LinkedIn, it's just linkedin.com/n/Sims Tillerson. And then you can call me or text me at 803-727-5620. And my email address is on my LinkedIn profile. But LinkedIn is definitely the easiest way to get me. Shoot me a connection request. I'll accept. And you can see all the fantastic amateur content I'm putting out there.
Fantastic amateur content. I love that.
Hey, you recently did a live on LinkedIn. You streamed it there. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So LinkedIn Live is something I started experimenting with maybe in October or November. I try to do one a week, but I can't always, selling, making money, that kind of stuff kind of gets in the way. But I like to bring folks onto my LinkedIn Live that can provide value to my connections. So subject matter experts in a variety of different fields, whether it be insurance or HR or music or whatever. The most recent one I did was with Amy Leanne Wills, who's a digital marketing expert. And we talked a lot about how to create a brand for yourself. And it's just great to be able to do that, because so many people won't ask for help even if they need it. So I like to put it out there from someone who's not me, someone who really is an expert in the field. But it's a very cool tool to be able to engage with people, for 30 to 60 minutes on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I noticed it and tuned into a portion of it before I had to go jump into another meeting. And then I looked back later and saw that beyond when it was live, that you got quite a bit of engagement, the trickle down effect from it.
Yep. And that's another cool thing is there's so few people posting that even if people don't see your post in the hour you made it or 12 hours after, it'll likely be in their feed and they'll be able to engage with it. So as you mentioned, I probably had 15 people that stayed with me for that full hour to watch my LinkedIn Live. And I think at this point, over 1,000 people have actually watched it. So
yeah, I think it was like a lunchtime thing, right? So I guess they grabbed their hungry man out of the company microwave and hit the desk.
That sounds good.
And tuned in, right? Instead of watching The Office or whatever on Netflix, they jumped in and watched you. So that's awesome, man. How about stories? Have you used the LinkedIn stories?
So I try to post stories pretty often, but unfortunately, stories are still only available on mobile. So I only get 20, 30 people taking a look at my stuff. But I try to do that just so that I'm hitting people through every channel possible on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Hey, well, who knows if the employee benefits thing don't work out? I'm sure LinkedIn would love to talk to you about coming on their team.
No doubt.
Only $1 million a year, LinkedIn. Give me a call.
You're definitely a great advocate for that.
That's right.
Hey, do you have any tips for the audience, like people who haven't gotten engaged with LinkedIn yet, like what they should do?
Absolutely. So this is the hardest part. Make a post. That's the hardest part, is to get started, and it's scary, and folks aren't going to interact with your posts right off, and you just got to be willing to accept that and understand it, but it does get better. So the tips that I give you, number one, be an early adopter of video content, because people want to see your face. People want to understand who you are, what you sound like, what you look like. So do that. There are a lot of great free apps you can get on your iPhone to make good quality videos with captions. And the second thing is pick yourself 2 to 4 words that if you were sitting outside a room and 3 of your best friends were in that room, how you want them to describe you. Mine, again, are real, kind, and helpful. Choose those words or those adjectives for yourself to ground you in the type of content that you're going to create so you never deviate from that. It'll help you when you get stuck creating content, and it'll help you make sure you remain true to yourself.
Well, man, awesome. That is fantastic advice. I have thoroughly enjoyed having you on our show today, The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. And we look forward to more conversations with you and more engagement with you. And hopefully all of our viewers and listeners will go and hit connect, and you'll double that to another, like 9,000 people.
That'd be great.
Here soon. On behalf of my business partner, Michael White, and our guest, Sim Tillerson from PES Enrollment, we appreciate you joining us today on The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Take care.